So my screen is visible to you, sir, now?
Oh, are you going to present your work?
Yeah.
Give me a minute. Let's check the. Good morning, everyone. The session chair is Farhad Zamani from Farhad Zamani. Are you there? Telecom Indonesia. 1 minute, Mr. Suresh. The first article is developing e-learning systems to support visual impairment during COVID-19 pandemic by Pia Tektaravit from Thammasat University, Thailand.
Okay.
Is it okay, Dr. Suresh can go ahead? Dr. Pia?
Excuse me. Yes, again, please.
Is it okay Dr. Suresh can present his work?
And then me, you're gonna talk like that.
Yeah, I think Dr. Suresh wants to go ahead, present his work. Is it okay? Can you permit us to go ahead?
All right. Okay, that's okay for me then.
Yep. Thank you. And yep. Good morning, everyone. This is Dina Naga from Sydney, and I'm the session chair for session 3. And I would like to invite all of you to this wonderful conference. And we are running like a marathon from yesterday. And I would like to invite Dr. Suresh to present multi-channel ADC IP core on Xilinx SoC FPGA. And Dr. Suresh is from Bharat Electronics. You're audible and we can see your screen. You can go ahead, Dr. Suresh.
Thanks to all of you. Good morning. Yeah, our paper title is Multi-Channel ADC IP Core on Xilinx SoC FPGA. How much time I can take? So whether I have to explain in detail or in brief, any time limitation is there?
Yeah, the duration for the presentation is 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's sufficient. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So along with me, my co-authors are Mrs. Shyama, Mrs. Sangeeta Srivastava, and Mr. Nigar Ranjan. We are all working in the same department, Embedded Systems, in Product Development and Innovation Center, which is the R&D unit of Bharat Electronics Limited, India. So just first, I'd like to brief about the abstract of this paper. Multi-channel ADCs, actually we preferred multi-channel ADCs since it saves layout area and for performance enhancement also. Since many channels are integrated into a single chip, so it helps us to achieve the synchronization across the channels. And the few special ADCs have the special features such as achieving zero phase delay. So considering all those requirements and specifications, we have chosen one ADC. By having that as a reference, we have developed an IP core to interwork to configure the ADC and to collect the data from ADC into FPGA. So generally, these kind of ADCs will have special custom interfaces. So sometimes it will have a standard interfaces also, SPI and I2C kind of standard interfaces will be there. But in addition to the standard interfaces, many other control signals also will be there, which have to be configured by the programmable IC, either by processor or controller or FPGA. So such configurations and controlling the ADC, then as per the configurations, collecting the data from ADC, then for passing the collected digitized samples into the processor for further processing, or to take a decision based on the digitized samples collected from ADCs. So this ADC IP core, so to interwork with the ADC, that IP core has been written in VHDL, so that actually the technology independent IP core can be developed and which can be ported across many FPGAs such as Xilinx, Altera or Intel, or Actel or Microsemi, Lattice, Cypress, or any kind of FPGAs which have sufficient number of logic elements to port this IP core. As a part of this one IP core, we have provided many configurable features so that as per the different customer requirements, so this can be tuned to work with a particular configuration parameters, such as number of channels, sample size, sampling frequency, data transfer clock, type of synchronization, etc. Many other things can be configured from the processor. Then as per that configurations, that IP core will be tuned to work with that. So then this implementation of this IP core has been verified by doing the performance validation. As a part of the throughput, processing delay and propagation delay accuracy, all those things have been measured and that verified, validated on the board what we have designed. So during the verification part, so whatever you design in the PL section of FPGA, actually this chosen FPGA is a SoC which has two sections. One is called processor section, another one is called programmable logic section. Whatever circuit we are implementing in the programmable logic section can be verified through ILE, inbuilt logic analyzer. Actually, it is a software tool which is part of the Vivado tool using which we develop the IP core. So whatever logic you are writing, whether it is working correctly as per the requirement, that can be cross-verified. After verifying that functional module, then it will be taken data into processor. Then whatever happens with the processor can be verified through debug port. Actually, that processor has an inbuilt on-chip peripheral debug port, which is actually UART serial port. So that serial port is a standard interconnect which can be connected to any laptop or PCs. So through which we can send the commands and we can collect the data also. So the code has been developed in the processor in such a way that the intermediate stages can be informed to the PC or laptop through debug port. For that, some command user interface we have developed. This is about abstract. In this abstract, any doubts are there, sir? Or can I proceed to explain further?
Doctor, please go ahead. You can proceed.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Just I'd like to start introductions, how we have narrowed down to this kind of IP core development work. So for many of latest requirements, the FPGA is the major processing element we choose, because so when you go for processors or controllers based, and then we, in addition to the processor and controllers, one separate FPGA which has only the programmable logic section, what kind of problems we face? Data transfer between processor and controller. First point is that it is not good and preferred for security concerns, because whatever data we transfer can be easily tapped out. Then it is not recommended for high-speed data transfer, because so when you go for more parallel interconnect between processor and FPGA, it is not recommended for high-speed data transfer. So when many ICs are integrated into a single chip, that solution is preferred for high-speed data transfer as well as for high-speed computing also, high complex computing. Then in addition to this programmable chip, generally ASIC or ASSP is preferred for some applications, but not, it is very costly, particularly when we consider the high throughput. In that scenario, we look for additional inbuilt components into that FPGA. So in some cases, some kind of standard libraries are available, but for few interfaces, that kind of standard library components will not be available. In that scenario, we have to develop such a IP core. So this is one of the scenario where we need to interconnect with the ADC, and we have to develop our custom IP core. So then we have developed this IP core. So just I will brief about the FPGA what you have chosen. This is called the SoC, system on chip, which has dual ARM core inbuilt. So this is Cortex A9 series ARM core is there. So in addition to this dual ARM core, programmable logic section also. In coming slides, I have given the complete architecture about this processor. In the processor, we use C or C++ language to develop applications in bare metal. In bare metal means which doesn't use any OS. But in some applications, we need to use the Linux or VxWorks. But in this case, the Xilinx has provided a customized Linux version, which is called Pita Linux, using which we have developed the applications. Then CA or GA, actually in these applications we have developed CA or for some other customers, we have developed a GA also to interwork with this particular chip. Actually, having this as a chip as a reference, we have designed 3 boards. So this kind of ADC is available on all the 3 boards with the different configurations. This CEI command interface is working through serial port, which is UART. The data transfer is through either USB or through Ethernet based on the requirement. Then, as we already said, that the integrated logic analyzer ILE is used for verification for the circuit implemented at PL logic. These things. Actually, in the main core, which receives the samples and which configures the ADC, after receiving the samples from ADC into FPGA, based on the size and based on the delay acceptable to the applications, we should have a FIFO along with that custom interface logic with the processor. Because when you have a smaller size of FIFO or when you don't have a FIFO, more oftenly you'll be interacting with the processor. You will keep generating the interrupt. Sorry. In such scenarios, when you have multiple peripherals connected to the processor, the processor will not have a sufficient time to process all the channels. In this case, actually 8 channels we are discussing. In some cases, 32 channels, even in some cases, 64 channels. For each channel, if interrupt has to be generated as soon as it receives a single sample, it will be impossible for the processor to allot time for that. So considering such requirements, the FIFO size has to be fixed. And in that way, actually, we have given the configuration from 8 samples to 1K samples for each channel. And the smaller size, 8 samples, 16 samples, and 32 samples kind of things for individual channels. When you are multiplexing it, so 256, 512, 1K, in that range, we have fixed the size for the FIFO. Then the ADC IC, what we have chosen, it has this kind of specifications. Mainly, actually, in one of the applications, the input analog signal is a voltage. That voltage can be configured either plus or minus 0.24, the maximum reach, then or 0 volt to 10.24. In the different configurations are there. That can be selected through some soft span settings. This IC has 200 kHz space per channel throughput, 8 buffered simultaneous sampling channels, plus or minus 1 LSB INL, maximum plus or minus 10.24 range, and guaranteed 16-bit, no missing. Actually, these are all preferred specifications so that accuracy, whatever that input waveform is coming, when you are digitizing and getting the output, it is almost same. Plus or minus 1 LSB INL is the preferred one. Then there are 2 interfaces, SPI CMOS and another one is LVDS IO. In SPI CMOS, no multiplexing is done. Each channel output is available at a dedicated separate pin. In the LVDS case, there is only 1 pin for all the channels. So all the 8 channels are multiplexed and received into FPGA. So then in this ADC, there is no, there is internal conversion clock and no cycle latency. Then input signal flexibility per channel, soft span input ranges combined with plus or minus 1 INL. There is no missing codes and 16 bits and 9.2 dB SNR. Based on this kind of requirements, we are narrowed down to LTC 2358-16 IC. This is our hardware platform. Zing is the main processing element, which has 2 sections, processor section and PL section. And what are the off-chip peripherals outside the FPGA on the board? They are provided here. Some DIPs, digital inputs, the DOP, digital outputs, DDR3, which is primarily required for operating the processor. So generally the processor's on-chip memory is very less only, because when the size of memory is increasing, the price also will be increasing. So on-chip memory also is there, but it is actually very less in size, 256K, in that range only on-chip memory is there. But we need to have more in terms of 1 gigabyte DDR3 we have provided for dual processor execution. In addition to that, boot mode and boot modes. So this Zing is basically volatile FPGA. So to have the non-volatile section, we are having QSP boot mode, SD card boot mode. In addition to these 2 boot modes, JTAG also is provided, but it is only until the power is on. So you can execute and you can debug through JTAG mode. Then ADC interface is there, PCIe, high-speed interfaces, PCIe, LAN, these are all high-speed interfaces are there. LAN, dual LAN we have provided on this particular platform. This ARM core has dual on-chip peripherals. For LAN, one LAN is directly used through MIO, second LAN on-chip peripheral is not used, but it is extended through EMIO because the pins, MIO pins allocated for the second LAN are used for some other pins since they are multiplexed. But as per the user requirement, the second LAN is extended through EMIO, and through the EMIO pins which are available at PL are used to take out the second LAN. In then RS485 base, RS422 base, and RS232 base UARTs. There are totally 7 UARTs used in this board. This is actually general architecture of the board what you designed. But as far as this ADC stream is concerned, the data flow is concerned. So in our board, VPX connector is there, and through that VPX connector, analog signal is received, and then one pre-processing circuit is there to filter and to amplify as per the requirement. Then this ADC, it has 8 input analog interfaces. Then it samples, quantizes, and then digitizes the complete all 8 channels, and then gives the data. If it is in CMOS mode, so there are 8 independent output pins are available, whereas in LVDS mode, there is only 1 pin to transfer the data. As per that, we are transferring the data from digitized samples from ADC to FPGA to PL section. Since processor, generally they will have only the standard on-chip peripherals. Using the processor, implementing custom interface is not possible at all by making use of the GPIOs, because in processor, each instruction is executed sequentially. In some custom applications, many control signals and data transfers are to be executed concurrently, considering that PS is and cannot be used for implementing the custom interface. So this is the data flow. So since we are connecting that ADC to PL section with by making use of the custom IP core, it receives the samples. Then there is a dedicated external bus interface, AXI, which is an custom version of ARMBA, which is a standard bus architecture from ARM. So the AXI, auxiliary peripheral interconnect bus, is there. It is a kind of external bus of this processor. But since the processor is inbuilt, integrated into a single chip, it is an internal bus from the processor and which connects all the peripherals realized in PL. Then the collected samples into the processor is demultiplexed in LVDS mode, whereas in CMOS mode, it is directly decoded. So coming back to in LVDS mode, after demultiplexing, it is decoded and the decoded data is sent to computer through debug port. In some cases, if you have to send all the data to another board or to another system, in that scenario, along with channel identifier, channel configuration data also we have to send. In such scenarios, the channel specific configuration data along with the identifier also are collected into the processor, and then based on the requirement, either it is demultiplexed, decoded and processed in the processor, or it is sent to the another system. This is Zinc SoC internal structures. As we told, there are 2 ARM structures. In addition to that, yellow color thing is PL section, programmable logic section. You can visualize that it is a standard conventional FPGA which has some kind of logic elements and multipliers, then some kind of DSP slices, then some dedicated inbuilt library functions. They are in programmable logic section, whereas in processor we have dual ARM core. Then some common interfaces which connects dual ARM cores, all those things are provided here. The on-chip peripherals, 2 SPI ports, I2C ports, CAN, UART, GPIO, SIO with the DMA. DMA is mainly recommended for high-speed data transfer. So then 2 USB with the DMA, 2 gigabit with the DMA. These are all the internal architecture of system Zinc SoC. Then as we have already seen, there are 2 sections, PS, PL. How they are connected together. So those things only are given here. That FPGA programmable logic section, in this Zinc series, there are many different families. I will show that in each category, starting from low density FPGA to high density FPGA. In this Zinc series, Zinc 7000 series SoC, the low end version programmable logic section has the Arctic 7 fabric, whereas that high-end Zinc 7 series program logic section has the Kintex 7 fabric. Those things only are provided here. Next, so as we told, this XC7Z0445, the different range of FPGAs available in this family, starting from Z7007S, Z7012S, they are all low density. That program logic section has Arctic 7 series FPGA, whereas in the mid-range device, Z7030, Z7035, Z7045, actually one more, this one also Z7100. That FPGA also is there, that we have actually 7045, 7035, Z700, there are migratable device. That means on the board, for some applications, if the selected device logic elements are not sufficient to address the customer requirement, then that FPGA alone can be replaced with the higher density FPGA, since they are all migratable device. That means pin-to-pin compatible device, but with high logic elements. This Z7045 FPGA has been chosen for our board. Then with reference to, now we are coming to mainstream ADC IP core. So what are the interconnections? The unlock input signal is coming through VPEX connector, then pre-processing circuit is there, ADC is there. Then we are taking the ADC data into programmable logic section. That ILA is actually an inbuilt library component. When we invoke in PLA, that tool also can be used for verifying the circuit built-in programmable logic section. Then that collected data from programmable logic section is passed to processor. This structure is clearly shown. This ILA is used for verification, and then debug port is used for the validation. Because verification means only in the processor, it is equivalent to simulation. Whatever is happening through simulation, we are able to see by making use of JTAG. Whereas in the debug port, either you can validate in JTAG mode or in boot modes, one of the boot modes, either QSPI boot mode or SD card boot mode. Those things are shown here. Then how data flow and how we are operating with this particular chosen FPGA. CP0 boots from on-chip memory ROM, as we already shown and explained. So the on-chip memory is very less, which is actually a non-volatile in nature, only very section. It is called a monitor program. So when the power initially is given, very first, that on-chip memory monitor program will be invoked. So which is helping that processor to start with minimum functionalities, such as the PLL configurations and the initial boot mode selection, all those things are selected. So since there are 12 ARM cores, first CPU0 only boots from on-chip memory ROM, second CPU1 goes into sleep mode. Later, based on our usage configurations, the CPU1 also will be configured. Then the on-chip bootloader in OCRAM, it comes up, it boots. Then it helps the processor to identify the type of boot mode. Then from that, first stage bootloader is copied into the processor. Then into the from the processor, it is copied into the DDR. Then after it is implementing the programmable logic, the processor, after it has get booted, then it helps the programmable logic section to get booted. So that is called the second stage bootloader. Then there is a dedicated architecture to synchronize the clock between PL and PS. This synchronization is done in the processor section only. PL cannot supply any clocks from PL to PS. Then one by one, step by step, we will see how data flow happens. Analog signal, in this case, in this implementation, voltage is the analog signal input that is filtered by ADC preprocessing circuits. So there are 8 channels input. In each channel, voltage information is coming. This voltage is actually representing the some status on the interconnecting devices. There is a big system. Each voltage is representing a different type of analog signal. Analog signals are represented in voltage form. That voltage is taken as input to ADC. ADC samples each channel simultaneously. All the 8 channels are processed simultaneously. Then the digitized samples are multiplexed only in LVDS mode. Then frames them as per the configurations. Actually, along with the digitized data, so it appends, it encapsulates its own specific configuration data. At what rate that particular channel has been sampled. So what soft span code has been set for that particular channel, which defines the maximum voltage range, and then it puts the serial data either through CMOS or LVDS as per the chosen configured data interface. Then through JEEP, actually after we collect the data into PL, there is a AXI bus. To connect to AXI bus, there is dedicated library components available in Xilinx FPGA. So if it is AXI GPIO is one of the such interconnecting component. Using that, we are connecting to the processor bus EXI bus. Then it is taken into AXI. So based on the type of requirement, the FIFO also has been added to the channel. After FIFO only, it connects to the DXI GPIO. Then from AXI GPIO to processor. So the demultiplexing of channels at PS is done in LDS mode. Channel specific decoding from the collected digital samples is done on PS side. So this is the IP core component LTC2358_0, which is in the leftmost top. So which has the input, what are the outputs, all those things are explained here. Then as we have already seen it, what kind of signal can be fed as input to this one? Arbitrary signals starting from -10 to +10. The input can be either in the form of single-ended signal or the differential signals. So this differential signal is not part of LVDS mode. The LVDS mode defines only for the output section. The input, either it can feed directly single-ended signal or the differential signals. Whereas in case of single-ended signal, all the negative pins of that input for each channel will be connected to ground. Whereas in case of differential input, the P and N signals will be connected to the concerned pins of the ADC. Then we have shown a small implemented block design. So generally we have written the VHDL code for the custom IP core. Then we are making one block out of this IP core. Then they are connected to the other library components available in that. Then at the end, it is everything is terminated into the processor, because the processor only can control and configure all the peripherals connected to that. It is the master. It only has the capability to configure, control, and collect the data. So initially serial to parallel connector, because from ADC data are coming in serial, whether in CMOS mode or in LVDS mode. In both the cases, data are coming in serial. So after receiving the data in serial, we have to convert into a parallel data for each channel. For that purpose, one serial to parallel converter is realized as a submodule of ADC IP core. Then the collected data into the shift register is pushed into the FIFO as per the requirement, along with the channel identifier and channel specific data. Then from FIFO, it is passed to this one. So there are two types of implementation as far as this FIFO is concerned. If it is a polling method, the processor periodically comes in round robin method. At a particular instant, it looks for ADC data. At that time, it gives the corresponding interfacing signals. Then it can fetch the data into the processor. In another case, if it is interrupt method, so the FIFO, whenever half of the FIFO gets filled or full FIFO gets filled, that PL will generate an interrupt to the processor. Then processor can read the data from FIFO. So this way we have done. All the circuits realized in PL is verified at ILA. At the end, we have shown the simulation results also. Then processor side, we come into the case. There we have written the C code for a processor to do the demultiplexing, decoding, processing, and the data transfer. Then the whole thing is validated through debug port on the board. This ADC IP core is instantiated into the top level block diagram. Actually, I have shown that complete design also here. Just let me to open it. This is the complete design what you have done in the Vivado. So there are two cases. Your top level file can be a block design, or it can be a VHDL file also. In both the cases, at the end, after the final design file, you have to generate one hardware wrapper file. That wrapper file only is given as input to the processor. That you will upload that hardware into the processor, hardware into the FPGA. Then you will be able to invoke SDK or VTIS to develop the application for the processor. This is for the complete FPGA. This processor is here. You can see that. This is Zynq FPGA processor section in software. Okay. So when we are connecting the peripherals realized in PL to AXI GPIO, they are all connected through AXI bus. Then each peripheral is to be memory mapped. The processor identifies each peripheral by making use of its address identifiers only. So those memory maps which are allocated for this ADC section alone, we are shown here. For the first channel, first GPU, the address is starting from 0x412000. So for the second channel, 0x412100. So 64K we have used in the processor, we are reserved in the processor, but it's not necessary. Even 1K also with the 1K also it is working because our FIFO size is 1K, so 1K is sufficient. Otherwise, even having little more also is not a problem. Then we are assigning the pins for each signal in the FPGA. So ADC underscore BC, ADC underscore channel 1 in, ADC underscore channel 2 in, like that. These are all pins in the FPGA which are connected to the external ADC IC. Only in the FPGA, which pins are connecting to the external IC only are defined in the tool. For the intermediate interconnections, no pin definition is required. So those things are connected here. Which pin in the FPGA Y23 is used for ADC underscore BC. Those kind of things we can see here. Then after completing this block design, HDL wrapper is generated. Then design is synthesized. Pin assignations are done in IO port assignments. Then implemented bitstream is generated. Then the generated bitstream is exported to SDK tool. Actually, starting from 2019.2, that software tool used to develop the application for processor is called the SDK. In the latest version, it is called BITIS, VITIS, BITIS tool. Using that, board support package is developed. Then that program image is flashed into the PL through JTAG emulator, and BSV is run on PS using debug port and viewed in SDK terminal. This is the complete data flow or sequence of operations which we are mainly doing with ADC. So the first starting conversion pulse is generated. So using on 45 megahertz clock, we are generating for 2 pulses. So as per that, the time duration, the sequence, and the data flow, what is defined in that IC, we have generated. But this is the generally, it is actually not only for this particular ADC. On most of the ICs, such kind of sequence only is required. Even there are changes slightly. Since we have written in behavioral level VHDL code, it is very easy to change and complete the things. We have done from ADC itself, unlock devices company itself, we have chosen 3 ADC ICs because on each board, different IC we have used it. So the same code has been used on all the boards to configure and collect the samples from ADCs. In some cases, actually, we use 2-3 ADCs also. Since it is written again, behavioral level code, so the same can be model addition approach. Okay, the same can be instantiated 3 times if it is 3 into 824 channels to be received. So the complete sequence is explained. Even can be seen that conversion pulse is there, PC is there, SCKI clock input. Actually, in SPI standard interface, there are 4 pins: MOSI, MISO, SCKI, SCKO. So as per that, we have configured and collected the samples. This has been shown for CMOS IO mode. So as we have already seen, only for CMOS IO mode, there are dedicated pins available at the output side for each channel. Whereas in LVDS mode, there is a single output pin only. You can see SDO 0, SDO 7. These are all for output channels. Then for LVDS IO mode, there is only one SDO. Here, all the channels are multiplexed in ADC itself. Then it is received. Then to configure the voltage range for each channel, so soft span configurations. What settings we have to do in what register. So 111 represents plus or minus 10.24 volt. In the same way for all other configuration, soft span codes are defined here. Then the sequence. Previously we have seen that flow chart, that sequence of operations. As per that, very first we have to generate the conversion pulse. How we are generating. So if you have referred the data sheet 44.44 nanosecond, one small pulse has to be generated. By making use of 45 megahertz clock, for 2 consecutive clock pulses, we have enabled it high. For other period, it is 0. So there is for 1 frame. So after receiving the data for 1 frame, then for the next coming frame, once again the same sequence will be repeated. After generating the conversion pulse, next we are generating SDA and the SCKI pulses. So, so by making use of reset, because for any digital circuit, there should be one reset clock signal from the power on as well as for a user-initiated reset, the whole circuit has to be brought back to the initial state. Then it has to be started. For that purpose, reset is used. This reset, it is a combined reset from power on reset as well as from the user-initiated reset. Then the whole circuit we have implemented using one 90 megahertz clock. We should not use three different clocks. Then actually there will be a glitter or jitter and or sometimes kind of buffering delay when you go across multiple clock domains. Generally, it is not preferred. Even if it is there, so it is possible to have a common PLL for most of the applications, and the whole circuit can be realized using a single clock, which is called a synchronized implementation, which is preferred. For high-speed applications, it is very much required. Even for radar applications, sonar applications, for those kind of things which we have to process the data in gigabit range, and it has to process multiple channels, that synchronization across clock is very essential. In that case, they will go for clock synthesizer kind of things. So in this case, the whole circuit is implemented using clock 90 megahertz as a reference. So as per that sequence, we have generated count SCK gate, SDA, SCK data we are generating. So those things are explained here. These are all internal logic. Actually, each code, how we have done it. So an interrupt pin called read pulse is made high, which indicates the PS that it can read the data from PL. So those kind of things, detailed one we have shown. Even all those things are already explained in this paper. So here the snapshots we have shown here, how we are taking. This is the final simulation results. So the complete behavior, whatever you have seen from the data sheet, the same thing we have defined here. Actually, a lot of provisions, configurations we have provided, and the code completely has been written in pure behavior level code as per standard VHDL coding, so that it can be used across many technology independent FPGAs. So in some cases, actually, small fine tuning is required when you move from one FPGA to another FPGA, even though the code has been written in VHDL. In ultra FPGAs, that with rounds to reset, non-zero initialization is not possible. In that scenario, so after a reset, during the clock only, so very first clock, which is following after reset, is generally used to define the non-zero initialization. So that way, almost 99.99% the code, whatever you have written, it can be used across the FPGAs. So the complete simulation results, what you've done in ILE, inbuilt logic and inbuilt and decorated logic analyzer, that has been shown here. Otherwise, those kind of things we'll be checking using the oscilloscope, where less number of interconnections are there. But when more number of interconnects, you see that for each channel, so serially data is coming. If it is in LV-CMOS, there are 8 channels, 8 channel output. Then along with that, many other control signals. All those things, if you have to capture in the oscilloscope or the bus analyzer, it is little tedious and difficult job. Whereas, and many kind of heavy instruments are also required. But FPGA has that development tool, Vivada has the inbuilt feature to verify all these things. They are verifying it. Even in Intel FPGA, it is called signal tapping file. So it is also having the equivalent function. It can capture the samples from the FPGA in JTAG mode. Then, whatever you have validated using the processor's debug port, by connecting that with the computer through debug port is verified. And whatever input voltage you have set and demultiplex decoded data is verified through this debug port. This is the snapshot from the command terminal. So next, we are coming to the conclusion part. We have seen one ADC IP core, the development flow also we have seen. Particularly this development flow, the VHDL is the simplest language. I used to say to my juniors that it is simpler than the mother language. So but only thing that digital fundamental knowledge is required to realize the algorithm, to visualize the custom interface. Then once we implement, next, the latest development in the FPGA has a lot of inbuilt library functions using which you can develop the complete architecture, complete functional models for any kind of custom interfaces by following the same structures. For most of the medium and high range, but generally for some kind of specialized high-speed interface, such as PCIe interface. So developing the IP core from the scratch will take more time. For that purpose, we have to identify the FPGA, which has the library common support for such high-speed data interface. So in this FPGA, PCI interface also is implemented. This also has a library component, but it had to be customized for VPX3 connector based one, because in the standard PCI implementation, synchronized clock is coming from the host to the endpoint. That means master to slave. Whereas through VPX, when we are connecting PCI host to slave, clock is not sent from master to slave. Then we have to customize that IP core. Such kind of things are special. Each model is unique, and based on that, some specialized customization will be required. Otherwise, this approach is generally preferred for any medium and low range applications. For high speed, DMA also you have to implement along with FIFO, either FIFO or Broadcom you can use. Then you have to enable the DMA feature. That's what then the highlight is the bare level code and modular approach, so that it is expandable. So 8 to 16, same model you instantiate once again, then you connect to different GPIO and memory mapping address, you change it, then 16 channels are supported. So then you can expand up to the whatever customer asks. And to what extent the FPGA logic element supports the number of instantiations. Right. Now we have seen the data transfer up to megabits range. If you have to send the data in gigabits range for for radar, for video, all those things, gigabits range data transfer is required. There, the leading vendors have come up with JSD interface, JSD 204A, B, C. The C is the latest version, which supports up to 24 gigabits range. B handled is in 6 gigabits range it is supporting. A in 2.5 in that range it supports. So next, we are planning to develop the JSD 204 ABC IP core to interwork with high-speed gigabit range ADCs. So these are the papers we have referred to implement this logic. That's it from my side. Now I'm looking for any questions.
Thank you, Dr.